Alrighty. I need to put some content out, and you've seen the video, but I felt like talking about this for a while, because, well, numerically, ARMS is doing fine right now. The only reason ARMS isn't played in more situations is simply because its toolkit does not fit what it needs to do in the raid. Stuff like, you can play it, but stuff like Broodkeeper, Rashanan, Silken Court's actually a pretty good ARMS fight, but mainly talking about Queen, because you want to build your character around the end boss. Queen feels like it was built for Fury Warrior. So much so that Fury Warrior got nerfed 5 times in a row because of Queen. Even though it was designed for it. But ARMS is in this really weird spot where it's doing good damage. Like, you're definitely going to see it on Silken Court. Queen and Sikran are all fights that are very good for ARMS. You'll probably even see it on things like Rashanan. Although now because Rashanan ads are back in, people are probably going to play Fury to pad because DPS numbers on a boss, it doesn't really matter anyway, right? But if you want to do boss damage, ARMS still does perform quite well on that boss for boss damage. But even if you're going to be doing specifically boss damage, a lot of ARMS logs are probably going to lose out to other ARMS warriors playing some form of AoE just to do ad pad. Just because that's going to get you a higher number, right? Now, that's kind of cringe. But before we talk about why I don't like ARMS, let's talk about why I like Fury and what Fury does as far as the warrior archetype, right? And why I think Fury succeeds where ARMS really fails in what it's trying to do. Because we look over at Fury. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm going over to Fury. Where if we look at our bars, right? We have a builder on a cooldown, a builder on a cooldown, a builder on not a cooldown, another builder on a cooldown, and it's contingent to execute. So we have 4 builders and 1 spender, right? You have all of these things culminating to Rampage. That's what you're doing, that's what you're feeling, that's what you're liking, right? I like that about Fury. I like the fact that we have this button that is big fuck damn. Obviously, for like Slayer as it stands, Crushing Blow is so good that we are still running Reckless Abandon Crushing Blow. Slayer also has problems where it might sim well in AoE situations with anger management, but the thing that's very awkward about it is because you're getting so much cooldown reduction on Slayer from these Slayer stacks and this Unrelenting Assault that's lowering the cooldown of your Blade Storm. Your Blade Storm desyncs from your Recklessness, so then you end up casting Blade Storm by itself, Recklessness by itself. Things just are weird and don't line up and desync, and it just feels bad to have all your shit just desync like that. I do not like the AM style of play for Slayer. I do think that for Mountain Thane, AM actually suits it quite well, and just like in terms of like AoE damage, since you're able to just continuously wreck Ravager, get a bunch of Thunderblast charges through that while you're just playing the game normally. And then you're just doing a bunch of AoE damage through Thunderblast. And it's quick and it's close enough to Reckless Abandon that you can play either one and you'll do just fine. AoE and single target in like an overall key. So having that flexibility is really nice, but personally for Slayer Fury, I do not like anger management because it just hard fucking desyncs everything. It does not feel good. But that is besides the point. We're talking about ARMS here. But I like Fury because everything culminates into Rampage, right? And you could say, oh, well, do I think that everything should just culminate into Mortal Strike? No. However, the problem of things culminating into a spec really rears its head and really rears how annoying this spec is. I'm not even going to talk about Skull Splitter. I think Skull Splitter is dog shit. What Skull Splitter is supposed to be, as you can see an axe going through a skull, is it's supposed to be a hit. Right? Skull Splitter is supposed to be a hit. It is a helm splitter. That is what that move is called. It is an attack from a weapon that is so strong that you put so much force into it that you literally, this is my multivitamin, but you literally hit it and crack their helmet and skull in half with the attack that is so strong. So if an attack is doing that and it's hitting and it's that big damage, why the fuck does it increase bleed damage for the duration. What is that all? Why is arms about this stupid bleed shit? Who gives a fuck? Who cares about bleed? Oh, if I wanted to bleed, I'd play fucking like sub or assassination rogue or feral druid. Like, no one gives a shit about bleeds. And I don't think anyone should give a shit about bleeds on warrior. And I think they need to redesign and move away from bleeds entirely. Thunderous Roar is okay as just an AoE damage button. It's just a button in AoE, you press it, does damn. But I do not like the focus on bleeds, especially for arms. I mean, Odin's Fury is also considered a bleed. Odin's Fury used to be fire damage back in Legion. But, no, who cares? Who cares about bleeds, you know? What arms is supposed to be is this big tactician spec. You hit the right button at the right time, you get a big damage bonus, and boom, Mortal Strike. Or boom, Execute, right? Fucking that old school headshot, boom, headshot, boom, like, that's how you want to feel when you're pressing your buttons on this fucking spec. You want to absolutely demolish with the Mortal Strike or an Execute. That's what you want to do. And I think the spec really works against itself. I don't know why it's all up, like, you can have bleeds, but even the bleeds are just a funnel for additional rage, especially in AoE, and that just feels awkward. But the problem is, if you want to even consider this talent, in its direct replacement, you're fighting against just bonus damage. Like, you're taking the damage every time. And the way the spec is designed, because it has no actual builder, Arms has no fucking build. All right, let's just get to it. Overpowered is not a builder for Arms, right? It does not build any rage. Unless you take this talent, Overpower will generate rage below 35% health. Otherwise, Arms generates 0 fucking rage. And especially playing as Slayer, where you're getting all these sudden death procs and extra sudden death procs, and you're spinning during Blade Storm and getting a lot of rage, you kind of don't even pay attention to your rage that much anymore. Like, you're not looking at, oh, I have 0 or like 40 rage. You're looking at, oh, I've got like 80 rage and I have 130 rage cap, so I can spend 40 of that and then overpower to get stacks up until I'm back up. But the problem is, what's building, right? What is actually building rage? What is building your resource? And it's all fucking auto attacks. This is an auto attack spec. This spec is such an auto attack spec that when you go through sims and stat weights, I know stat weights are kind of a meme, but why is haste a higher stat weight than strength? Haste is higher than our primary stat on this spec because you have haste to build auto attack generation. That's why Wind Fury is so important. That's why we have a talent down here that's pure throughput that increases our auto attack speed by 20% when we crit. Like, man, this spec is all about haste. Haste is so important you don't even take Test of Might anymore because haste is just better than strength. It is so dumb, man. It is so dumb. And not only that, because everything is so haste focused, this is the same for other multiple DPS specs, where as it stands, if you want to build haste mastery for Fury, but mastery isn't that good for Arms. Arms actually wants crit, and if you play Colossus, which just got a buff recently, Arms requires so much more crit than anything else you would even play. I don't remember who said it, if it was like Garms or I don't remember who it was, but they said if you wanted to play Colossus Arms on a fight like Silken Court, which has these big damage amp windows, which means Demolish should, in theory, own in those fights. Like, through the design, Demolish as an additional button that does huge damage should own in that fight. But you need something like 40+% crit just for that spec to work correctly, because if you don't get enough Mortal Strike crits, your CDR is not high enough, and then you just won't have your shit for the damage amps. So haste and crit are more valuable than just having strong gear, and that sucks. That completely sucks, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like this auto attack base spec, because it has no builder, and you're just like, oh well, Oh, proc to Wind Fury proc, which is now thankfully easier to get since all shamans get it now. But I'll just double the rage now because I fucking boom, Wind Fury, wee. You know what I mean? Oh, it's also why crit is so important, because crit auto attacks generate more rage than normal auto attacks. So you're built around haste mastery, and you're just built around auto attacks, right? If anything, Fury should be the auto attack spec because it's wielding two weapons, bah, 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 right? Bah, 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 bah. But arms should be the tactical spec. You should be able to build and spend. You don't want to overcap your rage, but you don't want to have too little. That's the way this spec should play, and the problem is it's built around auto attacks and bleeds and percentage modifiers, although the percentage modifiers aren't necessarily a problem. Because what the percentage modifiers do with martial prowess and executioner's precision and all this shit is what it allows you to do is build up these like massive mortal strikes. Or with Ashen Juggernaut, eventually you have this stacks up to 15 times. So you have 45% additional execute damage on top of what execute does normally, on top of the amount of damage execute does at 40 rage. So you get these big executes into big mortal strikes. In execute phase only does this spec feel okay to play. That is the only time this spec feels okay to play. But because it's auto attack based, because it's so reliant on crit, because it's so focused on bleeds, that we have this dog shit fucking skull splitter talent that used to be 2 talents, by the way. This talent used to be something different, turned into 2 talents, got buffed into a different talent, and then had the other talent pushed into it just to be good enough to pick, and it's still about bleeds instead of doing one big slam. Like, fuck. Like, why couldn't you accumulate, like, maybe something more akin to Unholy DK? Like, why couldn't you accumulate wounds? Or one of the big things about playing in like a tactician style is you're like breaking parts of their armor. That's one of the big things about Colossus Smash, was that it ignored armor when it came out. That and Armor Pen were massive when this spec was really coming and really rolling through. But now it's about these bleeds. But what if instead Skull Splitter was like, all you did, you add little wounds, or instead of wounds, you could say you're adding weakness to the target, and then maybe your hits could build stacks of weakness or consume stacks of weakness, and then if you set it up right, you could have the Skull Splitter button that if you wanted more on-demand burst damage, let's say Mortal Strike used 2 stacks of weakness a cast, but you had like 5 stacks of weakness on a target and you're building up for this big damage amp, boom, all 5 stacks of weakness with a big Helm Splitter hit. That would be way cooler. Way, way better. But the way the spec is just formulated and designed into this auto attack rage generation focused shit, it's just terrible. It is just terrible. I do not like the way arms currently is. A lot of people liked previously, like I said, I don't know a lot about Legion, but in Legion, you got a lot of return rage, and you got a lot of resets through Colossus Smash, through what Tactician used to be. And I think it's... I don't want to say it is, because I don't have as much experience as those guys with the spec. I'm personally someone that prefers Fury, because of its playstyle. But I do not think... I think the whole fucking resetting thing is a failed experiment at this point. And if they won't go back, they think it's too much, and they won't go back to the way people liked it in Legion, they need to scrap and redo the whole thing. Because it is simply a very... For a spec that's supposed to be a big hitter, it is unfun, it is not very dynamic. The way you play the spec isn't, oh, I'm doing this, or maybe I got a proc here. What if you like procced a weakness on a target or something that made your Mortal Strike do bonus damage in this window? So you're like, oh, I really got to get my Mortal Strike in while they're off balance. Could be an off balance debuff or whatever. You know what I mean? Where it's supposed to be this like big hitter, two-handed tactician style gameplay, but it's just about bleeds and you're farming little percentages, which is technically just like the whole like weekend concept I just brought up. So I mean, maybe they're not far off on that, but they really got to go away from this beat bleed gameplay. Skull Splitter is a terrible dog shit, dog ass button that I think they just need to completely remove from the game. You literally hit this thing on cooldown, and then you hit it with Thunderous Roar, because Roar increased bleed damage percentage, and it's just like a weird, awkward like maintenance buff. It builds so like this is the only button that you have to talent into that builds rage, right? This is the only button that you actually hit that generates rage. It's, I don't know. It is, this spec is, while effective in its current form, like while numerically it is good, I think the gameplay is some of the worst I have ever experienced in this game. While trying to play other specs, I played Frost DK and Holy DK. I played Marksman and Beast Mastery. I played some Assassination. I haven't played that much Sub. I played a little bit before, so like I've played a lot of the Rogue specs. I haven't really played any. I played some Survival, like just to see what that was like. I haven't played Enhance or some of the Feral. I haven't really played those melees, but man, it is hard to it's hard to, I don't know what kind of state, right? Overstate, understate, whatever. But it is hard to really explain how much I dislike this gameplay. Oh, and something that's actually really fun is that like these talents that were basically integral to how the class played and how you played it are now both just like non-functional, not worth taking. I think maybe let me check in the, also if you want a very good resource for warrior stuff, you should check out the Warbreaker Discord. The Warbreaker Discord is a very good place for stuff like that. Like if I go into the Colossus tree, yeah, man. I mean, shit. Even look at this, right? I'll bring this up. Let me bring this up on the main screen so you can see it. Like, even Colossus doesn't take this. Colossus has a massive, like if we go to Warcraft, or not Warcraft, Wowhead. Like if we go to Wowhead, bro, are you gonna, what? What? I've never seen that before, but okay. Like, if you even go into the Colossus talent, 15% bonus damage for Mortal Strike. There's another, you even get 5% damage. So Mortal Strike does 20% damage just in here. And everything's built, like, revolved around Mortal Strike, right? So if this entire spec is revolved around Mortal Strikes to get more Demolishes out, and the spec isn't even running the thing that gives you more Mortal Strikes, like literally either of them, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing here? This is terrible. This is terrible. This is bad. The spec is designed so poorly. Like these two talents here, this talent here, Mortal Strike's a chance to reset its own cooldown, and now Overpower has a chance to reset Mortal Strike. Battle Lord also used to increase the damage of Overpower as well, which is why it was so good and why it was so omnipresent, or omnipotent with Dreadnought. But now it just resets cooldown on Mortal Strike and gives you 10 Rage. But even in the spec built to spend as many Mortal Strikes as possible, you don't even take these talents. Like, the whole design is cooked. Top to bottom, the whole design of arms is a cooked mess. And they just need to, like, remake this spec. Just completely fucking remake it. I think Fury, as it stands, is okay. I think the improvements to Reckless Abandon have really pushed it towards Reckless Abandon. But personally, I like Reckless Abandon because it lets you play around cooldown timings, whereas Anger Management is having more cooldown timings. Depending on what you're doing. So some fights AM is better, some fights RA is better, like Brood Twister, AM is better, but most of the other fights, Reckless Abandon is better. But you actually have a lot of variance in being able to play these specs the way you want to in Fury, because I feel like Fury is just so much better designed. And I think this also comes back to, weirdly enough, the difficulty of designing if we're talking in like D&D terms, the difficulty of designing a fighter in a world of magic. Because as it stands, I mean, technically with Mountain Thane, Fury now has magic. It's got the thunderclaps, whatever. But as it stands, a lot of these other classes are getting so many cool and interesting and potential talents, but Warrior is just hit with weapon. Me weapon. Which Warrior players, to be fair, might like that, right? They might like, they don't want utility, they don't care about this shit, they don't care about that shit, they don't want to dispel, they don't want to be, they might want to throw out a CC. Spell Reflect is a great button. I really like Spell Reflect. It's very cool. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. But in terms of the overall thematics and creativity of the spec that is Warrior, I feel very, very low amounts of creativity. Because we have like Ravager, which is you throw a weapon and it's spinny, or you can go Blade Storm, which you go spinny. Yay! Like, can't we get something cool? Can't we get something interesting? Like, depending on how you play, looking back over at Fury, depending on how you play, recently was practicing Assassination Rogue. Guess I wanted to see kind of how that spec functions. And for Assassination Rogue, literally, you put up all your shit, and then you hit Mutilate. And Mutilate applies Caustic Spatter. So what does that do? All of your poison damage just spreads out to enemies near the big enemy you're hitting. Right? It just does damage. Reduced beyond 5 targets, but it just does damage to everything around your main target. And then that Caustic Spatter is about up here. In their talent tree, it would be about right here. Right? That talent by itself does more damage than Odin's Fury and Bladestorm. A tier 1 talent in a well-designed talent tree does more damage than our cooldowns, man. Our cooldowns. It does more damage than Odin's Fury being buffed by 30%, by another 20%, by another 10%. Like, how does a talent that's right here in the talent tree in Caustic Spatter, because of how the spec is well designed and the modifiers work on each other, that a talent here destroys a talent all the way down here on the spec tree? These are supposed to be big, powerful, impactful things. Reckless Abandon and Anger Management are very big and powerful and are very impactful, and are probably the only things in this lower talent row that feel very good, very big, and great to have. They change how you play. They give you a massive benefit. Slayer means you have to play Blade Storm. If you're playing Mountain Thane, you play Ravager. They both run unhinged. If you're going to be running Odin's Fury, you're running Titanic Rage. Like, I don't know, man. Honestly, like, most of our capstones are bad. And even, I don't really like them that much. And even going back to something like Arms, if they wanted to change or get rid of this bleed playstyle and actually have us be, like, not a bleed class, because I think being a bleed, like, just sucks. Like, bleeds are boring. If I wanted to play bleeds, I'd play Rogue or Feral Druid, right? Like, I'm not playing a fucking class with a big two-handed smashy to run bleeds. Like, who gives a fuck? They probably need to remove Thunderous Roar. Honestly, if they did that, you'd probably just replace Thunderous Roar with, like, Blood of the Enemy or something. So it still does AoE damage and just applies a small damage amp to everything. It'd effectively be the same exact shit. But, I don't know. I am very... While Arms is, like, like I said, like, while Arms is numerically good, I don't like it. I don't like Arms one bit. I don't like how it functions. I don't like how Haste dominates the entire spec, because your auto attacks are generating all of your rage. I don't like how I mean, I think the crit thing is fine, but I really think they need to look at and redesign this whole thing. And if I had a choice, I would certainly redesign this class either around like crit mastery or crit versatility, something like that. I think would be way better and way more interesting for a more of a do big hit button, do big damn kind of thing. Because as it stands, I do not like playing the spender filler optional builder button that already sucks. I just think that the way they've designed this is completely backwards to what it should be, and it needs. Honestly, I feel like if it had some actual like builder in it instead of just auto attacks, like you felt like you're not just waiting to do things, that you're in fact doing things. Besides like buffing your Mortal Strike, because the way it works is you just wait for enough rage to press Mortal Strike, and you're just slamming overpower just because you're buffing your Mortal Strike. You're not like building rage or doing anything cool. You're just, oh, hope I get enough rage. All right, I got enough rage. Mortal Strike. Oh, it didn't reset overpower. Okay, I have one overpower charge. All right, I've got. Okay, well, I want to spend rage on Mortal Strike, but now, okay, well, I've got enough. I guess I have enough. I'll go, Slam. Did that give me a reset of, oh, no, did give me a reset of Overpower? All right, let's wait for the next auto attack. Oh, we got just enough rage back to Mortal Strike again, because we have to Mortal Strike on cooldowns. It's important. Oh, we finally got a proc. Okay, we got our Overpower back. All right, okay, next auto attack. Oh, I guess we're slamming. Like, it's, dog shit, man. Absolute terrible style of play. I don't like it at all. I don't like how impactful haste is. I don't like the fact that you're just fucking auto attacking for all your rage regeneration. If I wanted to auto attack and generate all my shit, I'd be playing fucking Demon Hunter with Demon Blades. They got rid of Annihilator, which was that style of play, from Fury Warrior because they didn't like it. So, like, why are we still auto-attack based on this fucking spec, too? Ugh, it is just terrible. And even then, the primary things of our spec being Mortal Strike is the end-all be-all. It should be the thing for our spec. Mortal Strike being the thing for our spec, yet we don't take shit that just lets us Mortal Strike more, is a complete failure of design for what this thing should be. I do not like it at all. I think if Mortal Strike should be a big spender, and I think they should change shit like Slam and Overpower to be more builders, and then you're building around Mortal Strikes and executes and shit like that, instead of hoping you get procs to fill the gap between Mortal Strikes. It just doesn't feel good. I could keep rambling about this, but I probably said the same shit 3 to 4 times over and forgot about it because it was so long ago, and then said it again. But here we are. I'm going to cut the video now because I need to. And yeah. Let me, honestly, I mean, there's definitely some like other like Warrior diehard people that watch me. I know like TMY does. I'm really curious to see what like he thinks about it. That's one of the reasons why I like doing like the Warrior discussion things. Why I like talking to like Zan and Gajeel and Dan and Arkham Tyros, all that stuff. Because I do wonder how they really feel about how this spec currently exists, because I do not like it at all, but maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me, and then I can be big whiny crybaby poo-poo, and everybody else can like it, and I can be a hater. That's totally cool. If I'm just a hater, that's good, but otherwise, I'm out of here. Bye-bye.